Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Wait a minute. Thank you all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Thank you all so much for spending a little bit of time with yours truly. I know this isn't normally the time we normally do shows, but as some of you know, I mean, Paxton been a little bit under the weather, so been dealing with that, and he's been home with me, and my wife had to work. So thank y'all for being so patient. We're going to be talking a little bit about the final thoughts from Week 11. We know that the Saints got the victory by a score of 27-20. Much needed victory. It gives the Saints their fourth win of the season, and puts them back in a playoff hunt. As I evaluated the game and took a day to kind of think about everything, it just goes to show you, in a lot of ways, how some people that are just fans of this football team, they just be running their mouth. I mean, I'm just being 100. Like, a lot of Saints fans, they just be running their mouth. Like, we see them like come on shows like this, or they chime in on other shows and they talk about all these problems and what the team needs to do and what they need to get rid of when they're losing. And then when they win, it just seems like it just absolves everything. Like, I come away from this Week 11 game, and people can say that I'm, a pessimist, whatever. I mean, I come away from this game feeling the same exact way I felt last week when they lost to Pittsburgh. Like, this does not change anything for me. Am I happy that the Saints won? Absolutely. Like, why wouldn't you be? But the fact that we see, Andy Dalton, put up those type of numbers, I mean, maybe it's just a football fan in me, but I've been watching Andy Dalton his entire career. Like, this includes him playing at TCU. Like, I can remember when Andy Dalton got drafted in the second round. I can remember him playing in the Rose Bowl. I'm just being 100. Like, if the Saints want to impress me, let's try to make a run out this thing. And I mean, I'm not going to just jump and do backflips just because they won a football game. I'm sorry. It was an impressive win. It's something that they can build on. But we seen this before. Like, we thought when we seen a shutout versus the Raiders, we thought that this team, turned it around. And then they go on this 2-game losing streak. Be that as it may, I mean, I can accept the fact that you lost to the Ravens. They're a really good football team. But the fact that you have Kenny Pickett, a guy who had 2 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and you had him going out here looking like he was back at Pittsburgh, not the Steelers, but, the University of Pittsburgh. And you had Najee Harris, who has been struggling, making him look like he was the second coming to Derrick Henry. And then you play against the Rams, who have been struggling, and they're probably just in the same type of predicament as you. And I'm supposed to forget that, they got an inept coach. I'm supposed to forget that they have a wishy-washy quarterback. I'm supposed to forget that this is a team that has the capability of being undisciplined more times than not. I mean, it's just hard for me to do that. And I've been watching, people, talk about, oh, man, they going to make a run. Watch out. Look out. Like, what have you seen from this team to make you feel like they're going to make a run? And I get it. Some people want people to keep eyes on them and the product and the ratings and all that kind of stuff and keep watching. Look, I get all that, but I don't feel like you have to do it. Like, if you roll with the State of the Saints podcast, you're going to roll with the State of the Saints podcast. Rather the Saints are winning or they losing. I'm not trying to instill hope inside something that I, at this particular time, don't believe in. I'm serious. If you want to make a believe out of me, let's make a run out of this thing. I like the fact that they did some things that desperate teams do on yesterday. If you're watching this on a Monday night, I liked how they showed a level of desperation, because I just feel like when you're desperate, you try to do everything in your power to make it work. I like that, and I like the energy of them being innovative. But let's try to see if we can make a run out this thing before I start to get excited about the direction of this team and what they're going to do. I mean, I like the fact that Chris Olave, balled out. I like the fact that they actually utilized him, not just, in soft spots and have him running slants. They took advantage of his ability to be able to get the ball down the field. And, Andy Dalton, it was a really good pass that he threw. I mean, he was under pressure, under duress. If he probably would have held that ball a second longer, it probably wouldn't have been completed. I mean, it was a great pass. The defense, they played really good. I think I think that a lot of things that have been plaguing the Saints when it comes to luck or bad luck, it kind of worked in their favor this game. If Matthew Stafford would have stayed in this game, who knows what would have happened. But luckily for the Saints, he didn't. And, you got yourself a quarterback who probably didn't get any reps. He comes into the game and you're able to make the adjustments. You're able to get yourself a victory. So I like the fact that they use Andy Dalton and Taysom Hill in this game. I think that was a plus because you should get Taysom Hill involved. I like the fact that they utilized Alvin Kamara in different ways. You had him almost running like wide receiver screens. I didn't like that triple reverse, but if Andy Dalton would have looked to his left, it would have worked. I like the fact that they used the balance. They tried to run the football, with Taysom and Alvin Kamara, and even David Johnson got some carries. And I feel like David Johnson, I think that he can be a really good change of pace back, and really do some things too. So if they could continue this momentum that they had, then, of course I'll be excited, but you have to excuse me for being a little bit pessimistic about this football team because I've seen this before and I still don't believe in a head coach. I still don't believe in Andy Dalton, and I still don't believe that this team has just completely absolved themselves of all the things that has been ticking us off all season long. But the good news about all of this is your division is terrible. The NFC as a whole is terrible. And everybody can pretty much beat anybody, no matter what the record is, right? Even Philadelphia, they tweaked out a win, against Indianapolis, but they're not unstoppable. And then you have like the Giants, they got beat to sleep by the Lions. The Minnesota Vikings, who had one loss, got beat to sleep by the Cowboys. So everybody can beat anybody. But as we turn to the San Francisco 49ers game, this is really going to be a tough task for the New Orleans Saints. The 49ers are better than the Rams. Even when the Rams are good, the 49ers still always seem to have their number. Kyle Shanahan is a really good coach, and we know that they like to run the football. So let's see what they're made out of going up against a team that is physical, a team that is innovative, and a team that pretty much got all hands on deck for the most part. I mean, even though they lost Trey Lance at the beginning of the season, this is basically what this team looked like last year when Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback. So let's see where we're at. Let's take it one game at a time. Look, that whole 1-0 thing I believe in, but I'm not going to feed that to the masses because I want people to watch what I'm doing. All right. If anybody is skeptical about the football team, is well within their rights. I know some people feel like, the Saints won. Now they want to infiltrate other Saints fans groups and talk about, oh, y'all done gave up, like your fandom depends on it based on like your team sucking and you not saying that they suck or something. Like what kind of stuff is that? Like if I got a booger in my nose, right? You know what I'm saying? Like that don't mean you're a good friend just because you don't tell me I got a booger in my nose. Let me know, right? That, like some of these Saints fans out here feel like because they don't talk about how bad the team has been, they feel like that's their fandom right there. Like they feel like that's well within their rights. Like, no, that makes you delusional. Anybody that don't call out this team and just feel like, oh man, everything just gonna be poof pow playoffs, like you delusional. You're out your freaking mind. But I'm happy they got the win. So I would love to hear from you all. I'm gonna go ahead and read some of your comments and we'll go from there. We'll start right here with Matthew. Matthew says, I'm definitely not advocating for any Dalton because Andy Dalton because he sucked the last 2 to 3 games. But you have to give him credit. He had a quarterback rating of 149.6. He played great except for taking the sack. Well, Matthew, look, I'll give him credit for the way that he played. But that doesn't absolve him from how bad he's been playing over the last couple of games. Let's just be 100. This dude don't have enough Saints quarterback capital for us to just look the other way. Like that, I'm serious. That's like a dude that's garbage or a dude that can't really shoot, from the outside at the park, right? And then one day, you know what I'm saying, he plays on a team and they start dishing the ball. He just started hitting them like 4, 5, 6 of them in a row. Like, does that mean that all of a sudden he's Steph Curry? No, that just means that he had a good day. So all I'm saying is do it again. I don't feel like I'm sorry. Like somebody might be smacking their lips hearing me say that, but do it again. Like I'm dead serious. This is equivalent. This is equivalent to a person, a man or woman, who mentally abuses you, like all the time, like mentally abuses you, and then all of a sudden they just show up with a gift and put it next to you and walk out. Like, does that absolve them from all the mental abuse that they cause you? You know what I'm saying? Like, does that change anything? You know what I'm saying? Like making, like saying all kind of stuff to you to hurt you. But all of a sudden, here come a gift right here. That's supposed to absolve you. Like that, like, come on, man, give me a break. Like, you prove it in your actions. And it don't just happen just one time. It has to be a reoccurring thing. Like I said, I will give him credit for a great performance, but that still don't negate the fact that he been stinging it up. Like, you gotta put this thing together, man. You know, you gotta put this thing together in order for us to like really truly believe in you. Now, if they go on this run and Andy Dalton kind of, you know, do some things and you know what I'm saying, and get the Saints over the hump, then yes, you know, like everybody, you know, man, by all means. But for anybody that has like raises the people's eyebrow, you know, anybody that raises the people's eyebrow at Andy Dalton, I feel like it's well within their rights. And you know, like anybody that's coming at people for being skeptical, I feel like they wrong. And it's rather you've been living in a delusional world for the last couple of weeks, or I mean, you just don't know what the hell you're talking about. Was both let me see, was both Gold and ticked about the win. Obviously, why I was glad ticked because DA job was saved for another week. Yeah, I mean, look, I will say this. The fact that the New Orleans Saints did not quit or they did not phone it in and they still playing hard really just truly shows you that, you know, they respect Dennis Allen. If this team would have went out there and just kind of phoned it in, like I think you pretty much can, you know, say that the writing's on the wall. It's like almost like Matt Rule, right? When the Panthers, I want to say, played the 49ers, they just flat out quit. And it was just pretty much the writing on the wall for Matt Rule. The Saints have been dealing with issues, quarterback issues, all these type of things, and yet this team still mustered up the ability to go out there and play hard. So as much as a lot of people may not like this, and I'm one of them, as long as they continue to play for this guy and they play hard, it's going to give the Saints more and more confidence about bringing Dennis Allen back next year. I still feel like things going to repeat itself because once again, I just still don't feel like this dude is the right coach. I don't feel like he's a good coach. And I don't feel like this win changes my mind about anything. Like I still feel like he's not a good coach. But they can bring him back if they want to. But I think I could be wrong. But I just feel like, you know, it's going to be the same thing again. It might be even worse. But hey, who knows? Who that family? Hope y'all been doing well. Make sure y'all have a good Thanksgiving and be safe. Well, Ghost, thank you, man. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words. Shouts out to you. Let's see. I still don't think there's nowhere near a playoff team. Oh, yeah. No. Look, I don't know what it was. Look, I don't know what it was. I'm gonna be a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. The fact that they've been stinking it up, the fact that people ain't really, you know, was talking about not coming to the games. Tickets was as low as $18 on game day. I don't know if somebody part of the Saints trust. They was like, man, look, if we gonna lose, let's go lose with some style. Let's be creative. Let's do some things. You know what I'm saying, to put some behinds in seats. Because I ain't gonna lie, I mean, it was almost like you know, like on the cartoons, they'd be like, when they threw that pass down the field, that's kind of how I felt, right? You remember on them cartoons when they do that double take, they'd be like, you know, that's how I look. Looking at the Saints throw a deep pass down the field. Like, the passes are like few and far in between. It's like when you see it, it's like, man, wow, a deep pass for real? It's like they was coming up, they played like, that was the first game they played like that all season long. Like they was creative. They were trying to do some things offensively. They were trying to generate excitement. So I don't know if that came from them or somebody like from the trust was like, hey man, y'all need to do something. Okay. Like, okay, I understand we got all these injuries, but let's try to make this thing fun and exciting for people, because at the end of the day, these owners, they want your money. They want you to spend your money coming to these games. So I don't know if somebody had a tough conversation or somebody said something to these boys, but they were doing a lot of things that we weren't used to seeing. But maybe they needed to see that. And there was a lot of positive things you can take from this game. And I hope that they actually learn from this game, because I'm going to tell you this. When Peyton Turner went out, it kind of changed the way that they were playing defensively. And I think they found a little bit of a diamond in a rough when it comes to the pass rush. I'm telling y'all right now, Kaden Ellis could possibly be like one of those guys, I ain't saying he's going to be TJ Watt, but he could be like a TJ Watt, Khalil Mack type dude, Luke Kuechly type dude. I'm telling you, he can be one of them dudes. If you look at the NFL, and I said this earlier today on Twitter, if you look at the NFL, there's a lot of these hybrid type these linebacker / pass rushers who have the speed, who have the agility to get past these bigger offensive linemen and give them fits. It's hard for them to catch them. By the time they putting their hands out, this guy's past them and getting to the quarterback. And Kaden Ellis can be one of those guys. And I kind of feel bad for a guy like Zach Bowen. I know we may talk about Zach Bowen, but maybe it's the fact that the Saints, the way they trying to play him, doesn't fit his skill set. So a lot of the years he's been with the New Orleans Saints probably held him back. Because how many times do we see the Saints play a certain type of defense, right? And we see players play for the team, and they may be okay, decent enough to get themselves a contract somewhere else. And they go somewhere else and they catching a bunch of interceptions. They're getting a bunch of sacks. They like playing out their mind. So I do think schemes kind of matter. And it made me kind of feel bad for a guy like Zach Bowen, who we seen in college, who played mostly like a linebacker, pass rushing type. So who's to say if the New Orleans Saints played Zach Bowen like Denver played Von Miller? I'm not comparing him to Von Miller, but I'm just saying, if they played him like that, right, rushing the quarterback, instead of like trying to chase down tight ends and running backs, something that he really didn't do at the University of Wisconsin, who's to say that guy couldn't have been like something special? And I feel like maybe that's something that the Saints may need to do. Now, even though the Saints, as crazy as this sounds, lead the league in sacks, I feel like you probably can get more production if you start using guys like Kaden Ellis and using guys like Zach Bowen to rush the quarterback. I feel like you probably can get a lot of production, and I think and you probably get something out of these guys that they haven't shown. I think sometimes like we just kind of write guys off because maybe it's just not the right fit. I was thinking about this too. As I was cleaning up my house today, and I was like listening to trust levels, with Cam Jordan and Mark Ingram. And Mark Ingram was talking about when he first got drafted to the New Orleans Saints, how they wanted him to be like almost like a base, running back, right? Almost like a Derrick Henry type, like running back. And he was talking about how that really didn't fit his style a little bit. Like he wanted them to kind of change some things up to make things a little bit better for him. And how in the first couple of years in the league, they tried to use him like this battering ram type running back, and that's just not who he was. And then, when the Saints when he started to develop and he started catching the ball out of the backfield and he started to get more familiar with the choice routes, working alongside Darren Sproles, he got better. But he was like, that's the reason why a lot of us, we're like, man, Mark Ingram a bust. But the Saints were asking him to do something that he at that time he wasn't comfortable with, and he started to get labeled. So I'm just wondering to myself, like, how many guys have we labeled? Because you think about it, right? CJ Gardner-Johnson played a lot of, box safety, like, or nickel corner. Like, he played a lot in the box, right? Versus him playing for the Eagles, he's not really playing the box like that. So he basically playing in the middle of the field. He can basically pick his poison, and make plays. So how many guys have we written off because maybe their skill set didn't fit what the New Orleans Saints are doing? And the Caden Ellis experience on yesterday kind of made me feel a certain type of way. Like, man, maybe we give these guys these labels and we say they suck because maybe the Saints are asking these guys to do things that they're not comfortable with doing. Or, you're not utilizing these guys' skill set to the best of their ability. I'm just saying, like, I understand when you come to the National Football League, it's an adjustment. I get all that. But I'm just wondering how many guys are we just saying sucked or we just kind of threw out because what the Saints were asking them doing, they weren't effective. Like, I know we pick on Tyrann Mathieu, right? We talk about Tyrann Mathieu. We talk about, oh man, he looked like a bust. But think about this. Go back and I'm telling you, by listening to that conversation, it really made me just go back and take a look at some footage. A lot of the issues that we have with Tyrann Mathieu has a lot to do with how the Saints are asking him to play versus like how Houston asked him to play, how Kansas City asked him to play, how Arizona asked him to play. If you don't believe me, go back and watch those games. Go back and watch Tyrann Mathieu and the defense that they was running in Arizona and in Houston and in Kansas City. And you tell me, if you tell me maybe that's the reason why he's not all over the field catching interceptions, or that's why he's not making plays left and right. I'm telling you, man, like, I don't think, like, yes, when guys start to get older, they slow down. Maybe the instincts don't hit as quickly. I get all that. But a guy just don't fall off like that. Like, they just don't. And maybe, like I said, looking at the way that Kansas City asked the Honey Badger to play, it's completely different what the Saints are asking. I really don't think it's a coincidence that guys start to be playmakers when they go to other teams versus, like being a little bit of a playmaker doing their job with the New Orleans Saints. Like, I'm serious. Like, go back and take a look, man. I think a lot of the problems that we have has a lot to do with what this team is asking these guys to do defensively. But like I said, if Peyton Turner didn't go out, I don't think we would have seen some of the things we've seen out of Caden Ellis, because the Saints came into the game, Tano Passanio, Carl Granderson, right? Those were like, and Peyton Turner were like the three defensive ends, that was going to be rotating throughout the game. But when he went out, it made the Saints kind of change their defense, right? And that's when you had Caden Ellis, basically, trying to be in a pass rushing role. And maybe that's, like I said, maybe that's just his thing. Maybe that can be his calling card. Maybe he could be that guy. And I hope that the Saints kind of pay attention to that, because you're not really seeing, like, man, the Michael Strahans, the Giant Randalls, the Randall McDaniels, like, these guys were like 6'5", 280. But if you start looking at some of these pass rushes, like, Hutchinson, and Nick Bosa, like, these guys aren't like 280, 290. These guys are like 250, 260. And I think that speed, it gives these offensive linemen fit, because they're so fast and they're so quick, off that snap. I'm just saying. I know that was a little bit too long and trying to draw it out, but I just want to put this into context, and I want people to understand, like, maybe the issues that we have is not the players themselves, is more so the schemes that they're running. And it's just the best fit for these guys, because I don't know, man. I really don't know. Even after missing 2 games, Pete Warner still has the most tackles on the entire Saints team. We really need him back ASAP. Well, yeah, I mean, look, we know that Pete Warner is a really good linebacker, and he's only going to get better. And I like the fact that he's a guy that runs around the field, and he's only going to get better. Like he took a step forward from his rookie year to his sophomore year, and I just think that he's going to get better as time progresses. Tyron, let's see, agreed, TJ. Coma is a B. You get how you live. Karma, I guess you mean karma. Marcus Williams and Von Bell and CJ should still be here. Yeah, I mean, here's the reality, Trail. The way that it goes back to what I'm saying. The Saints feel like the defense that they run, having that box safety, if you can, you can make tackles and maybe, guard the tight ends and make sure, you get the pass deflections. They feel like they can basically run this with anybody that's serviceable, right? So they really just don't pay safeties. They just don't pay safeties because they feel like the defense that they run, anybody basically can do that. But I just feel like it made a huge mistake. Like, first off, with Marcus Williams, like the way that he can just cover field. Like, I know some people have their problems with Marcus Williams, talking about his tackling and all that kind of stuff there. But as far as like range, like he's probably the best safety in football when it comes to range. I'll never forget that week 1 game versus the Houston Texans when Deshaun Watson threw a pass to DeAndre Hopkins. This dude covered like 20 yards of field to come clean across the field to jump in front of DeAndre Hopkins and catch that interception. When you have a safety that has that type of range, that's special. And you're not going to find that everywhere. So I think the way that the Saints play defensively, they feel like the safeties are interchangeable. But what the problem is, if they can't draft anything, they can draft some safeties. Like, if you got a problem with anything the Saints have done, one thing you cannot deny, they can draft a safety. Every safety, for the most part, the Saints have drafted in the past decade, and it has been in a starting rotation, has worked out. I mean, from Kenny Vaccaro, Malcolm Jenkins, even though he started off as a cornerback, he moved to safety. But then you have Marcus Williams, you got Von Bell, you got CJ Johnson. When you have guys that's in that starting rotation, more times than not, they work out. But the thing about it is, man, they're so good that when they go to other teams, they become all pros and your Pro Bowlers. And why is that? Because these guys are talented. And I feel bad because there were a lot of times when we probably criticized these guys, but we weren't taking into account maybe, they could have been suited by running a different type of defense. Like, how many, like, based on what these dudes are doing, it's basically a shame that these guys weren't leading the league in interceptions as a member of the New Orleans Saints. So I think we got to ask ourselves, why is that? Why is that? Why is it that you got these teams out here that's catching interceptions left and right? The Saints only got 2 as of right now. I mean, I'm just wondering. Let's see. Trey Henderson should be here. Well, look, I don't know about that. I don't know about that because I can understand the Saints' way of thinking by letting him go. Now, it wasn't my, what I'm saying? Like, I wanted him to be here. And I even said this. Like, it was during the time when the Saints were trying to go after Jadeveon Clowney. And I was like, why would you go after Jadeveon Clowney? Like, you got a guy in Trey Hendrickson that is going to be a talented guy. And one guy was like, man, Trey Hendrickson ain't going to do nothing. He ain't going to never be nothing but a rotation guy. And I said, I guarantee you, I said, you gonna look at this comment one day and you're gonna regret making this comment. I'm like, he's gonna be a starter for somebody the next year. And this guy arguing me up and down. But that was the year with, Trey Hendrickson had about 15 sacks for the Saints, and he get a big deal with Cincinnati. But I can understand why the Saints didn't do it. They didn't do it because they felt like, well, it's a contract year. Kind of the same thing what happened with Von Bell. Von Bell was kind of up and down, and then everything just kind of came together in his last season as a Saint. But a lot of teams look at this like, well, you basically running with empty pockets, or you playing with empty pockets right now. So how much of this is, you just trying to get paid versus are we going to see this constantly? So, and then you combine the fact that Trey Hendrickson was always hurt. Like, I remember, like, I want to say, like, he had like the one year, I think he had like 6 or 7 sacks. Like, he started off the gate, he had like 4 sacks, and you know what I'm saying? And like, what he had, like, he had 4 sacks after 2 games, right? And then he got a neck injury and he was out for like 5 games. And so I can understand why the Saints didn't do it. But I know what some people will probably say, well, what about Davenport? I mean, I can't explain it. I can't. Maybe they look at, oh, well, this was our first round draft pick. And maybe, like, teams don't really like to admit when they make mistakes. Like, they want everybody to feel like they got everything together. So they'll double down on the foolishness, even when they get exposed. So maybe that has something to do with it. But at the end of the day, Trey Hendrickson is doing a really good job out there in Cincinnati. Got himself a Super Bowl appearance, and he's one of the anchors on that defensive line. So, I mean, in hindsight, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm saying he should have stayed. But at the end of the day, like, you got to kind of pick and choose. Keem Hicks was played out of position when he was a Saint. Ninkovich too. Well, look, I think that had a lot to do with also. Look, when it comes to Akeem Hicks, that had a lot to do with the division of the locker room. Dude was a locker room cancer. And the Saints, they're pretty adamant about the years about 2014 to 2016 when the locker room was just, kind of divided, cliques and all that kind of stuff. And Akeem Hicks had a lot to do with that. I think one of his interviews he did where he was criticizing the team, and you don't want that type of energy. You don't want that type of energy in the locker room. You just don't. Like, it's one thing when guys have like an attitude and they're wired a different way. Like, you kind of deal with that because, I mean, it's just the way guys are. But when you start like putting that stuff out there in the atmosphere, and it gives people opportunities to critique what's going on in the locker room, and letting people see, what I'm saying, like, break the fourth wall. It's not a good look. And I can understand why the Saints got rid of him. But at the end of the day, like, he was talented. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Saints knew he was talented, but they just felt like it wasn't worth the headache. And as far as Ninkovich, I mean, look, that goes back to what I was saying earlier. Sometimes things just don't work out. They just don't work out in a certain team, and then they go somewhere else, and the light comes on because maybe the team is asking them to do something, or maybe they kind of get more in depth about who the player actually is and puts them in a position to succeed. So I can understand that. And then also in Ninkovich, I mean, there was during the time when the Saints were trying to figure it out themselves. Like, they were trying to figure out, like, how can we make a championship team? I mean, and that was just one of those unfortunate circumstances. Sometimes, it's hit, sometimes it miss. It's hit and miss sometimes. AKA the scientist, thank you very much for $2. Says we got the win. Yeah, that's all. That's always a good thing. We need to go get Melvin Gordon. The Broncos just cut him. I'm good on Melvin Gordon. Look, we was ticked off like I don't know what a couple weeks ago about Mark Ingram. What's wrong with Mark Ingram? He fumbling football 2 straight weeks. Man, this dude got 5 fumbles right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, Melvin Gordon, I don't like his energy. I don't like his attitude. And then, like I said, when people start getting frustrated and all that kind of stuff, going to the media, whining and boo-hooing and stuff, man, I just kind of look at you like sideways. Like, it's just one of those weird situations. Like, your team win, but you still up here whining about carries. Now, if your team is losing, you feel like you can add something to it, then I'm for about it. But this man was up here talking about the team and a win. And then on top of that, you know what I'm saying, they had to rise above the circumstance of you fumbling. Nah, I'm good on Melvin Gordon. Like, you gotta, like, I don't know, man. You gotta humble yourself a little bit. Like, I get it. It can be a frustrating situation, like when things going wrong and maybe your teammates, y'all ain't getting along. But dude, like, I can understand, like, if every time you touching the ball, like you acting, what I'm saying, you acting a plumb fool with it. But like, your team is behind an 8 ball because you fumbling. Like, they had opportunity to go up in that game yesterday, if you're watching this on a Monday, and he fumbled on the goal line. You know, like, come on, man. Like, you can't be sitting up here pouting and stuff like that when you the problem. Like, you adding to the problem. Nah, brother. Nah, I'm good on the Melvin Gordon thing, man. I hope, like, look, I hope he finds a team, just not the Saints. The Saints need two safeties and then allow Matthew to roam as a playmaker, linebackers, but they don't want to use him at that role, nor do we have safeties to cover he back. Let me say this, Anthony. Look, if the Saints was like that traditional 4-3 team they was at 4-3 like they used to be, I think that you'll probably see Tyrann Mathieu beasting. You know what I'm saying? But I just think that the way that they play defense, like yesterday, I keep saying yesterday, but I guess it's Tuesday here, but probably Monday for y'all, but Sunday, uh, because of Peyton Turner being out, they had to play a lot more base defense, because of the loss of Peyton Turner. But I just think that if you played that more of a traditional 4-3 defense, you probably see him eating. And I think that a lot of people would see a difference in the way that he plays. I mean, come on, man. You're asking a 5'9", 185-pound dude to play box safety, and people like, man, he getting ran over. Like, it's not really his lane. He's done that before, but that's not the dominant defense that Kansas City ran, Houston ran, Arizona ran. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was able to kind of be on some Earl Thomas stuff at times. Like, you play the middle of the field, you kind of can, pick your spots, and you was the last line of defense. But it's just like you playing box safety, you up there, people play runs, want them to play run support and all that kind of stuff. Like, come on, man. Like, I feel like a lot of based on what I'm seeing and what he has done and what I'm telling you, like, go back and watch. Don't just watch his highlights. Maybe go back and watch a game like Kansas City or something. Matter of fact, I tell you what, go back and watch that game. It was the divisional round. It was the Houston Texans against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it may have been a game where he went out in a concussion, but go back and watch that game before he went out. And go watch that defense and how, how they was playing. And you tell me if that's the same defense. Because he was eating. He was eating, man. So, I don't know, man. Sometimes I just feel like we pick on these guys, but maybe the defense has a lot to do with some of the issues that we have with these guys. TJ, you should become the head coach of the Saints. Nah, I'm good on that. No, sir. No, sir. Could be several years down the line, but I feel like one day CJ will find his way back on this team one day. Well, look, I just hope the brother get paid at this particular point. I just hope he gets paid. The man deserves to get paid. I thought it was a mistake, the Saints, getting rid of him in the first place. That was a power move. That was more so like DA trying to flex his muscle. Like, man, I'm the new sheriff in town, but it just kind of just backfired on you. Like the thing that you felt like he couldn't give you, it was huge. Like you probably talking about X's and O's, but the energy that he brought to the field, the love that he had for his teammates, like that stuff matters. And when you have guys on the sidelines, clapping it up and dapping it up and, and bringing that energy, like it's not so much about his play. I mean, we all know that he's good. It's obvious that he's good. It's been honestly, it's probably beneficial to him that he went to Philly because we know how the media does, like that's one of those teams that they just love to talk about, the NFC East, which they deserve to be talked about this year. I can't even hate on them. Like NFC East as a whole deserves to be talked about because they're one of the best divisions in football. But him going to the Philadelphia Eagles, being in that big market where, they get a lot of attention is beneficial to him. And, he's good, but, the way that he's playing is going to be amplified because of where he plays. But I just think that the Saints just missed out. I think that you should have paid the guy. I remember his rookie season. Like, I never forget this. It was a 4th and 2. San Francisco 49ers, ironically, were playing against the Saints. And that was that whole George Kittle thing. Y'all remember George Kittle dragged dude about 20 yards. But CJ Gardner-Johnson got beat on that, right? And he went to the locker room, and what made me like have so much respect for this dude, I'll never forget this. When he said, man, he got me today. He said, it's good. He said, man, I'm a rookie, man. He said, I'm learning, I'm growing. He said, but he said, I ain't about to let that get to me. He said, I bet he ain't gonna do it again. When I seen that, I mean, he was dead serious. I was like, man, the Saints got something there. And that's why I said, like it's been times I was like, man, this dude might be one of the most important New Orleans Saints that they have. And he was, like, as you can see, he was. Like, he wasn't the, like, when it comes to, like, okay, when it comes to who's better out of Marcus Williams and him, like, I feel like Marcus Williams is better. But who means more to the team? He does. And you can't replace that. Like, you cannot replace that. You cannot replace that energy. Like, if you play basketball or you play football or baseball or soccer, if you have a teammate that's encouraging you, I don't care if from the biggest dog on the team to the most slaw dude on the team. But the dude that's slaw, he probably feel like he a dog too, because you have that one guy on the team that's always encouraging and always inspiring a guy to be the best. And that's what CJ Gardner-Johnson was. And you can't replace that. Like, I see some of that in Alontae Taylor. I like Alontae Taylor, the fact that, he said in an interview, he talked about, Marshawn Lattimore. He said, man, I'm trying to be cornerback number one. And he understands that. I like that energy. But there was just something about, CJ Gardner-Johnson was unapologetically himself. And maybe, like more traditional, sports fans, football fans may not like that. But, like, who cares? Right? Some people, they want the buzz cut, button up to the top, politicking football player that always says the right things, always does the right things, to shake the hands, to kiss the babies. Like, man, come on, man. This is a new wave. Like, these cats, they wired different. And he's rather you get with it or get lost. So yeah, I just I got a lot of respect for that dude. So I hope he get paid. You got a point. I was thinking he goes somewhere else and be great, talking about Melvin Gordon. Well, look, I ain't got no problem with that. I don't. Like, I don't wish the man bad. I don't. I want all these dudes to succeed. I want them to get their money. I want them to have great health and all that. But let's just be real about this, man. Like, Melvin Gordon has a fumbling issue. And no matter how good you are, if you putting that ball on the ground, bruh, you know what I'm saying? Like, ain't nobody going to mess with you like that. And you playing a running back position? I mean, y'all remember, man, for all my football historians and people that's been rolling with football for a long time, man, y'all remember Tiki Barber? Tiki Barber coming out of Virginia, pretty good running back. Had a fumbling problem. Had to change the way that he held the football and everything. Y'all remember that funny looking, hold he had, used to hold the ball high and tight like this when he running, because he had a fumbling issue. And no matter how good you are, right? You can break this one, break that one, but if you have a fumbling issue, if you suffering from fumbleitis, you ain't gonna see the field. So that, I think Sean Payton said it best. I mean, when you holding the football, you holding people's livelihoods, you holding people's houses, dreams, families, all that in your hand. So when you put it on the ground, I'm saying, like, you letting the team down. So I hope that first off, you got to get these fumbling issues under control. I don't know who you need to call. I don't know who you need to work with. I don't know what you need to do. I mean, maybe they need to do it like Omar Epps did on the program. You remember he had a fumbling issue and the coach was telling the teammates, like, 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 man, just walk around, try to see if you can get him to fumble. And he was like sitting in the class, he dozed off. And somebody knocked the ball out of his hand. Maybe you need to do that or something, like help him work on his fumbling problem. But you ain't going nowhere. I don't care how good you are. Like, Melvin Gordon has been a really good running back in the league. He's had some injuries over his career, but he's been steady, over his career. But bro, nothing will get you out the league quicker than you putting that ball on the ground. I can tell you that right now. I don't care how good you are. I don't care if you got the the elusiveness of a Barry Sanders. You got the quickness of a Tyreek Hill. Look, if you fumbling the football, nobody cares. Nobody cares. My daddy raised me on the Cowboys. Fortunately, I learned better and did better. Well, look, I can't even hate on the Cowboys this year. Cowboys doing a real good job, man. And based on how the NFC looking, man, it might sound crazy, but they might end up in a Super Bowl. I mean, that's my worst nightmare. Lord knows. I can't, boy, I can't stand them Cowboy fans, but they look like they legit. Like Minnesota was supposed to be that team. They beating Buffalo and all that kind of stuff there. And then all of a sudden, here come the Cowboys. Wouldn't that be crazy though? What if the Cowboys and the Bills hit the Super Bowl again? Like, and it'd be like the 90s. Boy, Skip Bayless probably have a heart attack. TJ, do you think you will do film study so the Who That Nation can visually see what you're talking about with Honey Badge? Nah, man, I'm not really on the film study type tip, man. Like I would ask, like I would suggest like people that be doing like them all 22, like Deuce and all Deuce Winham and all them guys, like somebody ask them that question as far as, you know, with the Honey Badger and ask him, is there a difference? And he'll be able to break it down. Like I'm look, do I understand offensive and decent defensive concepts? Absolutely, I do. You know, do I understand instincts and all that kind of stuff? Yes, I do. But as far as like breaking it down, that's just not my thing, man. And I try to just, I mean, I try to, defer those to like the people that really take the time to do those things. Jeff Nowak, another one of my guys, you know what I'm saying? He's really good at it too. But, like I said, man, you can tell. Like, you can really tell. Like, I'm telling you, like, for anybody that may be interested, go back and watch that game, Houston Texans versus Kansas City Chiefs. Look at the defense they was running. Look the way that he was playing in that game. Now, there was some times where he was coming down, in the box safety, but there was plenty of times where he was not. And I just think that that's something that maybe that's the reason why a lot of us feel the way we do about him. And it's not any fault of his. It's mostly what the Saints are asking him to do. TJ, a perfect fit for Saints head coach. No, I am not. No, I'm not. Everybody like the Cowboys, Saints, or a culture. I think I think the Cowboys, when it comes down to it, okay, you got to remember, man, from a historical perspective, like in the 70s, okay, before they had like the Carolina teams, right? Atlanta wasn't really that good. And then on top of that, I mean, with the Cowboys, it was more like, I mean, what they stood for, you know what I'm saying? Like, you had Roger Staubach, former military guy, Mr. Button up to the top. You had Drew Pearson, you know what I'm saying, the pretty boy and all that kind of stuff, Afro, you know what I'm saying, big belt buckle, cowboy hat. It was the lifestyle that people fell in love with. And then not to mention, then when the 80s hit, I mean, you had the famous show called Dallas that was out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, JR and all these boys there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a lifestyle. So you had a lot of people who grew up liking, you know what I'm saying, the Dallas Cowboys based on like the lifestyle that those guys lived, the polarizing figures that they were. And you had parents that passed that love on to, their kids. So I think that has a lot to do with it. It's almost like, where you grew up at, right? So you grew up in New Orleans. Some of us have kids, right? And, we going to the game, we watching the Saints games, we got our Saints shirt on. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like you online shopping, NFL.com, you buying, you know what I'm saying? You buying Saints jersey for your son or for your daughter, right? And you're trying to instill that love for the Saints inside of them. So I feel like it's the same way. And I think that's one of the main reasons why people like the Cowboys so much. I mean, as far as what people have told me, because I mean, I'm out here in South Carolina, and you have people who love the Cowboys more than they love the Panthers. And the Panthers, like, they're like 3 hours away from here, from where I'm at in Myrtle Beach. So I just think that it's just a matter of like how you grew up, what's been instilled inside of you, and a lot of like the OGs, the triple OGs, they were Cowboy fans. So that's where a lot of that comes from. I'm gonna scroll down a little bit, folks. Let's see. We got 137 people watching, only 46 likes. Come on, people. Yeah, man. If you like the show, go ahead and hit the like button. We got 158 people watching this right now. So hit the like button if you're enjoying the show. Hit the subscribe button if you have not already. At practice, coach used to make us hold the ball all day, and coaches would randomly walk around and try to punch it out. You fumble, you run. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the way it is. Like ball security is key, and that's a lot of drills. That's a lot of drills that coaches use. Trying to punch the ball out. Wet ball drills is another. You know what I'm saying? Like not just on rainy days, but just to make you, you know what I'm saying, have that ball security. And yeah, I mean, a lot of coaches still use that to this day. But you got to hold on to the football, man. I don't care how good you are. If you can't hold on to the football, you ain't going for it. CJ Garner Johnson was like, you either love him or hate him. That's how he was, and that's polarizing. Yeah, I mean, he was a quiet taste. Like I said, most, I'm just being real. A lot of people, I don't want to say a lot of people, but you have a majority, I want to say majority. You have your fair share of individuals in Louisiana. They're traditionalists. Like they look at a certain football player, they expect for you to be a certain way. And if you don't fit that mold or fit that image, you know, then all of a sudden, what I'm saying, they kind of write you off or they don't have anything for you. I just think that people just need to understand, man, it's a different age. I was seeing somebody like I heard somebody say this on WWL radio, and it stuck with me. And I think it was last week when the Saints played Pittsburgh. And guy on the radio was like, I'd rather see a guy go out there, and mess up, but have a scowl on his face in frustration than a guy standing on the sideline smiling, and looking, what I'm saying, and looking happy when the team is down. I'm like, kind of stuff is that? Like it's pretty obvious, like what he was implying. Basically it was implying that, Andy Dalton work hard and all, Jameis Winston does is smile. And what I'm saying, that's about it. So I just think that, from that particular perspective, like you have people out here that feel like a quarterback, a running back, a football player in general needs to look the part, right? Like I said, he needs to be he needs to be borderline politician, right? He needs to make you feel comfortable about the fact of you cheering for him. But look, I don't care what a guy looks like. I always said I don't care if he's black, white, blue, like Skeeter Valentine. If a guy can play, he can play. And I just think that people need to like remove some of their prejudices when it comes to like evaluating these players. It's just as simple as that. Like, shouts out to Christian Gary. I like him a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, cool dude, in my opinion. I ain't never had no problem with him. But I just feel like his take on CJ Garner Johnson and him, like rapping outside of being a football player, I feel like that's wrong. Like just because you ain't feeling his rap music or you talking about his degrade and all that kind of stuff there, like that shouldn't be a deal breaker. Like a lot of these guys, do outside things. Like, I mean, what was that energy for Teron Armstead, right? Teron Armstead made a song Bank of America. They was playing that in the Superdome, right? But I ain't hear you go at him. Like, so I just don't like just because a guy wears his hair a certain way or he presents himself a certain way, like that's don't give you grounds to like sit up here and say, I don't like this guy. Like you don't even know him. And like I said, the modern day football player is different from the days of years past. Like, you watch Bart Starr, like you watch all those NFL film classic, right? Guy buzz cut, you know what I'm saying? Like flannel shirt, you know what I'm saying? Shirt in his pants with some khakis on, you know what I'm saying? Some smooth boys. Like those days are over. You know what I'm saying? These dudes wearing Balenciaga and all this kind of stuff, man. These boys trying to be fly, flashy, and cool. It goes back to what Coach Prime says, right? You look good, you play good. You play good, they pay good, right? So it's a lifestyle. And I just think that some people just need to kind of change some of their thoughts and views about the modern day football player. I mean, as far as CJ Garner Johnson, I ain't had no problem with it. Whatever, get you wired and get you inspired to play. As long as you're doing a good job, I have no problem with that. And you're not being you're not being a nuisance to society. I mean, I don't know. I love my Saints team, but we're getting work this weekend against the 49ers. They beat the brakes off the Cardinals tonight. Well, look, I I said at the beginning of this episode, this game that the Saints played against the Rams does not absolve them of anything. Like, I still feel the same way I did before this game even happened about this team. This team gives you a bunch of hope. Like, when they win, the crazy thing about this is when the Saints win, it's impressive. Like, when they win games, it's impressive. And that's what makes you ticked off as a fan. That would really frustrate you, because you're wondering to yourself, why is it that you can't consistently put forth this type of effort? Because it's obvious that you have the talent. If you can put together this type of game and performance, like, and be as impressive as you are, like you did against the Raiders, how you did against the Rams, why is it that you can't consistently do this? Why do you consistently get in your own way? And that's the most frustrating thing about it. So if they came out here and played against the 49ers and they limit the mistakes and they didn't go out there and didn't trip over their own feet like they normally have been doing over the past 4 or 5 games, I just don't know, man. I just don't know. That's the most frustrating thing about it. But yes, like, all signs indicate that they should get, the brakes beat off of. But, I mean, we'll see. Man, they got to prove something to me. Once again, I apologize for being a pessimist, but they got to prove something to me before I start, like, feeling anything about them. Like, I just watched the games. Like, like, I have to basically check myself before I get to Eugene. I got to say this. I have to check myself to wonder if I can still feel. Like, you ever been, like, in a relationship and you feel like, okay, man, I don't know, man. Like, I care about this person, but I don't know, man. Like, I still care the way I once did. Like, that's kind of like how I feel about watching the Saints. Like, it's crazy. Like, I love this team. Like, man, my fondest memories as a kid involved this team, but it's just amazing to me the social disconnect that I have for this team as far as, like, what they're going to do. Couple years ago, like, you watch the Saints game, you looking forward to watching these boys win. If they didn't win, you like, man, you frustrated, you upset, because you like, man, what happened? But now it's like, you're shocked if they win. Like, you go into the game with no emotional investment. Like, man, you ain't drop a pass. It used to be like, man, I'm throwing something at the TV, picking, you know what I'm saying? I'm picking a pillow up, slamming on the floor. Like, I'm frustrated. Right? Because I tell you, I'm a podcast, but I'm a fan also. But now it's like, oh, they drop a pass. Okay. They don't go for it on 4th down when they, when they need 1 yard. Okay, whatever. Or y'all gonna punt right there. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, or y'all ain't gonna use Taysom. Okay. Well, if it come out ready, okay, whatever. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel, and I feel bad for saying that. But like I say, man, I just be watching the games. So I don't know, man. I don't know. TJ, Omar Epps is the only man to ever earn a full ride scholarship for football, basketball, and track at 3 different schools, even resolved that fumbling issue. Yeah, man. I mean, that is true. And not to mention, he was a bad DJ himself, man. He won a DJ competition. Y'all can't forget that now. Can't forget that. So that man was a DJ. He's a football player, a basketball player, a track star. He a police officer on Raising Canaan. I mean, he was a doctor on House. Like, man, Omar, like, first off, let's get him man flowers while he's here. Omar Epps is a legend. All right. I know people talk about Denzel Washington. They talk about Forrest Whitaker. They talk about Morgan Freeman. Well deserved. But Omar Epps is a legend. Okay. I feel like him and Regina King are like two individuals. Like, that was our childhood. Like, I'm 36. Like, I can remember Regina King from 227 and, you know what I'm saying, Friday and Boondocks, and it's the same thing with Omar Epps. I mean, from Juice. I mean, come on, man. Like, Omar Epps is a whole legend. And I just felt like that just made me think about that, Eugene. Just made me think about how this man, like, has been a staple, like, in my childhood, my teenage years, and adulthood. And this man, like, rarely ever, like, get any, like, recognition for that. Man, a legend. They won't make that clear. Man, a legend. Him and Regina King. They deserve their flowers, man. TJ, what is the game plan to stop the 49ers 3 yards in a cloud of dust style? D-line has been suspect in recent weeks. That's the reason why I'm telling you, King Arthur, you got to get these linebackers involved, man. You got to get these linebackers involved. You got to get these guys up here thumping, because here's the thing. We all know what the 49ers want to do. I mean, they want to run a football. They want to impose their will, and they want to run you down. I mean, it's just that simple. I mean, it's no shock or anything like that. But it's going to be interesting, man, because I really have a feeling that Trevor Penning going to play in this game. So it should be interesting to see him go up against Nick Bosa. Good luck with that, buddy. Well, I take that back. Nick Bosa is probably going to be lined up against Ryan Ramczyk. But I think you're going to see Trevor Penning in this game. So it's going to be interesting, man. But look, they got to take their best shot. They do. They got to take the 49ers' best shot. And even though the 49ers are impressive, I mean, they not world beaters. They can be beat. And if I'm not mistaken, I mean, didn't the Falcons beat them? And, I know they had a bunch of injuries and stuff like that they were dealing with, but man, I think they can beat them. I think they can. I'm gonna take a few more and then we're gonna get up out of here, folks. Get up out of here. Let's see. Said go Power Rangers. On our team with offensive linemen on the field, just like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, especially Tommy Oliver, are joined on the Power Rangers team with on the first episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Rest in peace, Jason David Frank. He's a real incredible legend in the childhood. I love watching the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and all when I was little, to be honest, offensive linemen are doing the same. Andy Dalton on fire with 3 touchdowns yesterday. Keep his doing the great job. I guess you mean keep doing a great job. Well, thank you, man. And used a lot of Power Ranger references in there, but of course, I mean, look, I would be remiss not to mention Jason David Frank. It's unfortunate that the brother decided to take his own life. It's a moment I tell everybody, man, sometimes you got to check on your friends, even the strongest of friends. Sometimes it seems like people got things together and they don't. And sometimes, like, we see people, at work, or we see people like, around, and we just think that person just got everything together. But sometimes, like they say, smiles and cries, like what they said on Training Day. I mean, it's the truth. I mean, sometimes, life can be hard. That's why you got to check on your friends. And if you ever just have these thoughts, man, it's just, just know, man, you got a lot of people out here that love you. I don't care how bleak things get. People love you. They care about you. If you leave this world, I mean, you're going to leave a huge void in somebody's life. I know sometimes, like, we may call somebody and don't pick up the phone. Or, like we may need somebody and nobody's there. But if you take your own life, you take yourself out, there's somebody out there that's going to, like, be hurt by that situation. It's unfortunate that he decided to take that route, but as we all can see, I mean, he meant a lot to a lot of people, especially us as kids, man. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers came out in 1993. I can remember being a 7-year-old kid, sitting on my grandmother's floor, sitting on my mom's floor in the house and watching it for the first time. And I remember, everybody wanted to be the Green Ranger, and then when he turned white, everybody wanted to be the White Ranger, so rest in peace to Jason David Frank. He left us with a lot of memories, and, unfortunately, it's a shot to our childhood. I mean, he's up there with Steve Urkel and Laura, and, all these other, different superheroes they had out there, Boy Meets World. They weren't superheroes, but y'all get the point. Corin Topanga, Step by Step, like he was there, man. Saints aren't out of the race, but they're definitely limping with a Dennis albatross around their waist. You ain't lying. You ain't lying about that. Yeah, not lying about that. Shouts out to Cat for putting DA on the spot about what he told Winston in London. Of course, he didn't answer. Well, look, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I don't see Jameis Winston re-signing with the Saints, especially if Dennis Allen decides to come back. The guy deserves a shot to be a quarterback in the league. It's up to a team how much they want to invest in him. It just seems like the Saints aren't interested in Jameis Winston. But I will say this. As much as I'm not a fan of Dennis Allen, I mean, we just got to keep it a buck. Dennis Allen did not come to this conclusion by himself. And trust me, some of the players that we love and respect probably played a role in Andy Dalton being a starting quarterback. Now, I know we just want to make it feel like it's just Dennis Allen's decision and his decision alone, but it's not. Trust and believe. It may not be the deciding factor, but trust and believe these players like had a say so in who they feel like should be the quarterback of the team. I'm just being 100. Like, I just think that believing that it was just Dennis Allen and Dennis Allen alone coming to that conclusion, I just think you sadly mistaken. I do. It's some OGs and some leaders on his team that helped him come to that conclusion. And of course, those guys are going to be, not taking they're not going to take responsibility, which they shouldn't. But they had something to do with it. I mean, I'm just being honest. I don't think the Saints 49ers game will be a blowout. That's tonight game was though. Well, I didn't see tonight's game. I didn't see a snap. I know they was playing, but man, I was with Paxton most of the day. I was cleaning up my house. Technically, I'm on vacation this week from work, but of course, Paxton gets sick, and now so I'm kind of glad that I took this vacation week, because if I didn't, I mean, wow, right? But I took the time. I got to clean up the house, try to get the house prepared for the Christmas holiday, Thanksgiving. Try to get the Christmas lights out. Try to get them from being tangled up and stuff like that. I haven't really watched anything that involves yesterday's game or tonight's game or anything. Like, mostly, I would just listen, like I was just working, cleaning up and listening to podcasts and, just caring for Paxton at the same time. But no, I mean, I'll go back and of course look at the highlights, but I didn't see anything. TJ, you was a fool in that Oklahoma drill. No, I was not. No, I was not. No, I was not. DA needs a guillotine. Nah, we ain't gonna chop him up, bro. We ain't gonna chop him up. We ain't gonna chop him up. We want him. We think that he not the answer, but we don't want to chop him up though. We ain't gonna chop him up.
Hell no, to the no. Hell to the no.
I was 11 in 93. I'm old as hell. Yes, you are, my friend. I'm just joking. Hey, man, but look, that's how life is, right? It's amazing. Like, we watch it's crazy though. So my wife, she watches all these BT Plus. I'm sorry, babe. I don't know if you're watching this. You're gonna be like, oh, why are you telling my business? But she watches these BT movies. I don't know, these Christmas movies and stuff. And, you watch, like, they had the dude that was on 3 Strikes. I know some of y'all probably know what I'm talking about, but some of y'all do. 3 Strikes. And I'm watching this dude, man, he got gray in his head and stuff. I'm like, man, I remember this dude, like, was young and vibrant. Then you see Bill Bellamy and stuff like that, how to be a player, and like he looking old. And I'm like, man, it just really like put your life into perspective. Like, the older you get, the older the people that you grew up watching get. Watch the interview with Jasmine Guy and Kadeem Hardison. That was Whitley and Dwayne Wayne. And I'm looking at them. I'm like, man, they just got older. But it just, like, it's just amazing. You know what I'm saying? It's just amazing. Like, when you think about it, you look back and you see, like, people who you remember, like, just so young. You're like, man, this person was cool. Like, everybody wanted to be Dwayne Wayne. Like, everybody wanted to be Dwayne Wayne. Everybody wanted to flip up glasses. Everybody wanted the Dwayne Wayne swag. Everybody wanted to be Ryan Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody wanted to be these cats. Now you look at them, it's like, I mean, you still, like, you just think about it, like, man, these guys were the coolest people ever. And now it's like, you look at them and you see how old they got, and not to say that they look old and crusted, but like, you see in gray and stuff like that. And it's like, wow, I remember when they was, it's an amazing experience. Dalton at his best don't turn over the ball. Jameis at his best hit them throws that Dalton can't make. Look, I think there's pros and cons to both quarterbacks. I'm not going to sit up here and just say, oh, you put Jameis in the lineup, it's going to absolve everything. Like, I don't believe that. I think that both of these guys have like strong points, and then I feel like both guys have shortcomings, but I like, I don't know. I like Jameis a lot. I got a lot of respect for Jameis Winston, and Andy Dalton has done absolutely nothing to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want him to be successful, of course. Like, I'm not sitting up there hoping he throws an interception to put Jameis in. I hope that's not what y'all are doing. But I just feel like both guys have strong points and both guys have limitations. TJ, do you think Hendon Hooker could fall to us in the second round? Yes, I do. I do. Based on the ACL, man, bless that brother. I feel so bad for him because everything started to come together. Light came on for him, and then all of a sudden that happens. Oh, man, I feel bad for him. But based on this, a lot of teams that probably would have picked him in the first round, not going to do that. They're not going to draft him in the first round because they can't afford to have this guy like waiting around. You know what I'm saying? Like they will want that guy to be on the field right now, learning and being at quarterback. So yes, I do feel like he can be there. And to be honest with you, if he is there, the Saints need to draft him because I feel like the Saints most likely probably going to bring one of these quarterbacks back. They probably going to bring back Andy Dalton for the most part because I don't think Jameis going to want to stick around and be a bridge guy. I think Andy Dalton would be more willing to accept that role. And at the same time, you can probably draft Hendon Hooker and have him, go through rehab and stuff like that. And, if Andy Dalton not giving you what you want like in the middle of the season, Hendon Hooker will probably be back to be able to give you that lift. So, yes, I do, and this is like, it's unfortunate, but this might be one of those situations where the Saints might end up getting themselves a franchise quarterback in the most unlikely circumstance. Because if Hendon Hooker is there in the second round, you draft him. Like, it's just as simple as that. You draft Hendon Hooker. Like, I feel like me personally, based on how the Chargers are looking, Los Angeles is gonna call up the Saints. They're gonna offer the Saints a first-round draft pick. They're gonna offer them this year's first-round draft pick, probably next year's first-round draft pick. So the Saints can probably draft themselves. I don't know if it's me. I'm drafting a pass rusher. I'm drafting a pass rusher. Or I'm drafting another guard. Like, I'm drafting a guard, getting rid of Andrews Pete, or I'm drafting a pass rusher in the first round. Or, you know what I'm saying, if you want to, you can draft yourself a quarterback. Because if Hendon Hooker ends up like going in the second round, then you can draft him, right? But I just think that the Saints need themselves another pass rush. Look, the Davenport experience hasn't worked out. Peyton Turner, I mean, he's still up in there. He has some bright spots, but I still need to see more. They need to get themselves another pass rush. And if Hendon Hooker is there in the second round, you draft him. That's just how I feel. Because if you're not in love with a guy, like, okay, if you ain't going to get Bryce Young, you ain't going to get CJ Stroud. If you're not going to get like any one of those guys, then I just feel like you need to get something that's going to be beneficial. Like, Cam Jordan is getting older, and you need to get yourself a pass rush. The guy that you not one of these dudes that from the university, I mean, from UTEP, and like he 6'9". Like, no, man, get yourself a guy that like one of these guys from Georgia. I don't know, one of these guys like from Alabama. Like, get yourself somebody that that's gonna go out there and have that dog mentality and has proven on a big stage that he can get the job done. But yes, I do feel it's unfortunate. But I don't see a team drafting Hendon Hooker in the first round, knowing that if you draft him in the first round, you're looking for a guy to give you production like from day one. I feel like he would fall to the New Orleans Saints, and New Orleans Saints situation would be beneficial to him because you don't have to worry about drafting. You don't have to worry about a quarterback being there. You're the future of the franchise. So you can get a guy like a Teddy Bridgewater, or you can get a guy like a Andy Dalton, and you can have those guys as your bridge guy. And when by the time Hooker is ready, he's ready to rock and roll. Damn, TJ, I just watched the 49ers game. This is going to be messy next week. Still, who that? What was the score of that game, man? What was it? Okay. 38-10. I'm looking at it right now. So they beat them 38-10 in Arizona. I'm just looking at the stats right now. I apologize, folks. Jimmy Garoppolo, 4 touchdowns. My goodness, 20 or 29. Definitely not something that you want to hear. George Kittle, 2 touchdowns. Brandon Ayuk, 2 touchdowns. Wow. Then you have Deebo Samuels with a rushing touchdown. Okay. Chris McCaffrey out there, 7 carries for 39 yards. And he also has 7 catches for 6. Yeah, that's not good. But at the end of the day, you better come up with a game plan. Let's be real about it. This current Saints isn't drafting Hendon Hooker or any other black quarterback. The Deshaun Watson sweepstakes was a joke and a fluke. Nah, man, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. We gotta stop. We gotta stop trying to program ourselves to believe that the New Orleans Saints are racist. Because here's the thing: if you believe that if you think that the New Orleans Saints are prejudiced, why are you a fan of the team? Like seriously. I'm pretty AJ. I don't know. I don't know, brother. I don't know if you're black or white. I assume that you're African American. And so why is it that you would if you feel that way, if you feel like the Saints will never go after a black quarterback, which history has shown, especially over the last 20 years, that the Saints have had 4 black quarterbacks. They've had Jeff Blake. They've had Aaron Brooks, they had Teddy Bridgewater, and they had Jameis Winston. And I may be missing one. Am I missing? Oh, yeah. You got dude from Ohio State. Somebody help me out, man. I can't think of his name. JT Barrett. So that's 5. So you've had 5 quarterbacks in the last 20 years, and you're expecting for us to believe that there's this love. I don't believe that, man, because I'm not going to believe it, because if that's the case, then I don't know. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. These teams want to win. At the end of the day, they want to win. It ain't got nothing to do with it. Now, I understand that people are upset about the whole Jameis Winston situation, but I don't think it has anything. I honestly, wholeheartedly feel that the decision to the decision to sit Jameis Winston has absolutely nothing to do with him being a black quarterback. I don't. I think it has something to do with the fact that he's had a history of being a turnover machine. And the decision was based on maybe Dennis Allen, along with some of the leaders on the team, coming to this conclusion. We look at Dennis Allen and we okay, yeah, it's because he was the one pulling the trigger. But I really honestly, wholeheartedly believe that he sat down with some of the most respected guys in that locker room and they came up with that decision, including Alvin Kamara. I can't prove that. Well, I'm pretty sure I could if I really did my work, but I really feel like they had something to do with that. We need a 6'9" dudes in the middle. Yeah, if you can get a Calais Campbell guy, I'm down with that. Bridgewater, Winston, and try to get Watson. That's all I'm saying, man. I get it, man. I understand the frustration. And, what I'm saying, I ain't trying to make no excuses, but it's just hard for me to, believe the record and the track record of this team and the black quarterback for me to feel and believe that this team wouldn't draft a Hendon Hooker if he's available and they like his upside and his ability and his talent. I just don't. I don't believe it. Like if you are looking at a guy and like, oh man, shoot, he all right, but he black, so I can't. Like, if you look at that, man, you don't want to win. And my thing is, once again, if you feel that way, then why are you a fan of the team? You know what I'm saying? Like that, like I can't understand it. Like, why would you want to be a fan of a team that you feel like is prejudiced? I don't I wouldn't. If look, if they came out and they did an investigation and I found this out, that would probably be the last day I become a Saints fan. Like, I probably would never be a Saints fan again. Like, seriously, like if the investigation came out and they proved that, yeah, like the State of the Saints podcast would be no more. It'd probably be the State of the NFL or something. Because I ain't look, anybody that got that in their heart, like, I can't roll with you like that. But that would be absolutely ridiculous. You might as well move out of town, because we all know that there's a nice majority of African Americans that stay in the city of New Orleans. So I wouldn't want to go that route. I just don't believe that. I just don't. I don't believe that. TJ, the Saints passed over Warren Moon and Bobby Aber. Well, let me tell you this, man. Let's be real about the King Arthur. During those days, there was a level of prejudice, not just about with the Saints, but everywhere. Like, there was this stigma about the African American quarterback that it was a thinking position and they didn't have the intellect to do it. Everybody did it. Like, there was a reason why when Cordell Stewart came out of Colorado, they had him doing everything but playing quarterback. Now, he was before his time. I feel bad for Cordell Stewart because he was before his time. If Cordell Stewart was a quarterback in modern day NFL, he'll probably be one of the best. Why? Because, he was able to do some of these things, these zone reads and all that kind of stuff. He'll be able to run that RPO stuff that made him successful at the University of Colorado. Warren Moon, it was just plain and simple. It was just straight up 100% peer prejudice. There's a reason why he spent the majority of his years in Canada and was really, really good in Canada. He was really good as a Canadian football player. If you combine his yards in the NFL and his yards in Canada, like, the man threw for like insane yards, right? He was great with the Houston Oilers. They got him like a little bit late in his career. He was, almost in his 30s. I think he was like 29 or something like that when he joined Houston. They had a couple like really successful teams. He was throwing for 300-400 yards a game. And he played till he was like around 41, 42. And he had some really good years with Minnesota. But like I said, it was just one of those times where, people were, prejudiced when it came to the black quarterback. But now, not so much. Like, you look around the National Football League, like, you see a lot of African-American quarterbacks all around this thing. And you have to be a complete numbskull if you're still looking at race to decide who's going to be your signal caller. So that it's just that simple. But yes, I do agree with Jakeem Arthur during those times. The practices that they had when it comes to the evaluation process, it was not fair. It was a lot of prejudice going on. But in modern day NFL, like, if you still talking about, oh man, I don't know about him, he black, like, man, just throw your whole team in the trash and let me know about it, because I ain't trying to root for nobody. I ain't trying to, not draft a guy because he black, which is crazy because they drafted for him. Let's see. I think DTR from UCLA would be a solid pick for us at quarterback. Let's see. Dennis Allen couldn't coach his way out of a plastic bag. Dude is a coordinator, not a coach. Well, I'm with you on that. I think that he's a good defensive coach. I think he's one of the best, but I think there's levels to this, and that's not his level. That's like saying a team racist because they don't have white cornerbacks. Good point. Jason Sehorn, the Great White Hope. Well, I will say this: a lot of teams probably don't draft them because there's not really many of them. Like, I'm like looking at college, like college football. Like, how many white cornerbacks you see out there? You don't really see one. You don't really see too many white cornerbacks. I can't remember the last time you said Jason Sehorn. Like, what was that dude name? Uh, dude that played for Adam Archuleta, but he was like a safety. It's I don't know, man. You don't really see too many of them. I don't have it in my heart, TJ, but I have to wonder about Allen with Pryor and Winston. Barbara, that's interesting, but I will say this. The way that Dennis Allen coaches and the way that he is, I just feel like he is one of those guys that can't really develop offensive players. And when he went to the Raiders, I feel like he felt like he had something to prove, and he want to hitch his wagon to somebody that wasn't a traditionalist. Like, that may sound crazy. I don't feel like it was a racial thing. I just think that it was more so like the way that they played the offensive innovation. I don't think that he thought that he was going to be able to coach, nor bring somebody in to be able to coach that type of style. And if it didn't work out, then okay, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna get fired, which probably should have did anyway because you got fired. Anyway, I don't think it has anything to, I don't. I don't. Um because okay, if they didn't spend the majority of the offseason trying to go after Deshaun Watson, moving $30 million to try to acquire him, I probably would be like, okay. And some people like, man, they wasn't serious. No. I'm telling you right now. I got about 4 or 5 people that were close to the situation. 4 or 5 people, I'm talking about close to the situation, was like the Saints were like dead serious about getting this dude. Like dead serious. I know people don't want to accept that. I'm so serious. Like it was, they was ready to roll out and get the PR work going, baby, to try to get everybody on board with this, including anybody that was skeptical about it. I'm telling you, they were serious. I need y'all to lose. We have your first round pick. It says cornbread. Well, look, I'm pretty sure you're an Eagles fan, but look, man, I mean, the damage already been done. You know what I'm saying? Y'all gonna get a nice little draft pick, and y'all gonna be picking in the 20s also. So, well, you know what I'm saying? Y'all gonna be a Super Bowl contender, and y'all still gonna be picking in the top, you know what I'm saying, top 12, top 15. So TJ White running backs didn't really become a thing until around this time. Ahmad Green was still playing for Green Bay, right? I'm not saying Green was white. I named him for a reference point. What are we talking about? We had Peyton Hillis. Man, what was the dude? And what was the other guy? The running back out of Stanford. Man, what's the dude name? Oh my goodness, man. He ended up winning like the Doak Walker Award, like back in the day. And when he got to the league, he ended up like being a fullback. I can't think of that dude's name. Somebody help me out with that. I cannot think of this dude's name for the life of me. But he was probably, you know what I'm saying, he was a guy that they thought was going to be, you know, one of them great white running back. Yes, thank you. Toby Gerhart. Thank you, Derek. Toby Gerhart. I couldn't think of his name. But yeah, they thought that he was going to be like the best thing since sliced toast bread. Didn't work out. Peyton Hillis had a magical year, so magical he was on the cover of Madden. Just didn't work out, you know. I mean, you got some guys out here, you know what I'm saying? Like Rex Burkhead, pretty good, right? You know what I'm saying? He carved out a little career for himself. And you got some guys that come in, you know what I'm saying, that play, you know, the running back position pretty well. I mean, you can't forget about Chris McCaffrey. Like Chris McCaffrey might go down in history as like the greatest white running back of all time, you know, but I mean, I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's like certain positions like wide receiver, you know, you might see some white guys out there. Cooper Kupp doing his thing. Jordan Nelson has done his thing. You know, like Hunter Renfrow throwing his thing. But when it comes to like cornerbacks and safeties and stuff, you don't really see too many white guys playing that position. Bring back Dennis, James Allen, and Dalton. Free James and tank for Caleb. I ain't in the tanking business. But you know, if they do bring him back, don't be surprised if they get an opportunity to draft this dude. TJ, was Peyton Hillis the Jeremy Lin of the NFL? No, because Jeremy Lin, unlike Peyton Hillis, is still playing basketball and had a good little career. Now, he, as far as the whole insanity thing, yes, I mean that was his peak, but at the end of that, he still still playing basketball. When it comes to Peyton Hillis, I mean, he was like here and then he was gone. Like Robert Smith, number 26 for the Mike Allstott. Robert Smith wasn't white. Robert Smith was light skinned, and I think he was biracial. But I mean, I guess if you want to, technically call him that, but yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like people would consider him as a black guy. Mike Allstott, yeah, Mike Allstott was a fullback, probably the best fullback I ever seen. Name me a white cornerback without looking it up. Jason Sehorn is the only one I could think of. Yeah, Jason Sehorn, the only one I could think of. I'm really trying to think here. Yeah, that's the only one I can think of that actually did something, And like I said, Adam Archuleta, but he played more of a safety. John Lynch is another one, you know what I'm saying? He played safety though. But yeah, Jason Sehorn, like the only cornerback I knew, white boy that played. I guess what Sorensen, Sorensen, you know what I'm saying, for the Saints, you know what I'm saying? Like, but he a safety too. So yeah. TJ, top 5 hardest hitting linebackers of the 2000s. Go. Got to put Ray Lewis on there. I really got to think about this in the 2000s. Somebody help me out with this. Ray Lewis is probably the only one I can just think of at this particular time. I'm pretty sure they got some more. I'm pretty sure I can think about, but that put me on the spot right there. Ray Lewis is the only one that just kind of popped into my head. Yeah, Joey Porter is another one. I mean, you can't go wrong with anybody. Terrell Suggs. I'm trying to look around the league here. Fletcher. You know what I'm saying? Like Fletcher was one. Lance Briggs, Brian Urlacher. Yeah. London Fletcher is probably, you know what I'm saying? I say London Fletcher. Wasn't the most popular guy in the world. Yeah, Patrick Willis is another one. Yeah. Zach Thomas, yeah. Jonathan Vilma, Greg Lloyd, Urlacher, yeah. And I was drawing a blank. Honestly, I was drawing a blank at that time. Thank y'all for that. Greg Lloyd, that's more 90s, ain't it? Greg Lloyd, like, he mostly 90s, wasn't he? He played like with Kevin Green and guys like that. Yeah, Takeo Spikes he's pretty good. Man, what's the other guy name? Oh man, he played with Patrick Willis. Who was it wasn't Patrick Willis who, y'all remember that hit that Drew Brees took, and you know what I'm saying, it stretched his neck and people was like, you know what I'm saying, making memes out of this. It wasn't Patrick Willis though. It was another linebacker on the team. Yeah, Bowman. Thank you. Navarro Bowman. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, can't go wrong with that. Can't go wrong with that. Yeah, but we're about to go ahead and get up out of here, man. Thank y'all so much. Really do appreciate your time. This has been the State of the Saints podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. As y'all can see, man, we're pretty interactive here. We love the Saints football, but we also talk about different things as well. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Also, hit that like button if you have not already. And you can check out previous episodes of the State of the Saints podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM. And you can follow me on Twitter at TJAY Jones 8. Everybody have a good night, good morning, good evening, whenever you're checking out this podcast. And like always, all I got to say is